5th, 2020 virtual regular City Waukegan Council meeting. Roll call, please.
Okay, real quick, just to make sure, Alderman, you unmute and mute yourself. I do not have that capability, just so everybody knows. And Alderman Keith Turner, you have an agenda, correct? Because there was a problem with it a couple of meetings ago.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Alderman Florian.
Here.
Alderman Taylor.
Present.
Alderman Bolton.
Present.
Alderman Seeger.
Present.
Alderman Mosio.
Here.
Alderman Kirkwood.
Present.
Alderman Newsome.
Present.
Alderman Turner.
Present.
Alderman Rivera.
Present.
Mayor Cunningham.
Present.
You have a quorum.
All right, we have a quorum. Item 2, invocation will be led by Father Hector Consuelo Sergrano, Carzana Lutheran Parish at 658 Grand Avenue, Waukegan, Illinois. Immediately following the invocation, we'll always stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Amen. God Almighty, Alpha and Omega, we come before you to thank you for the multiple blessings you have given us. You are our foundation and our strength. You have given us our identity as God's people, people of all races, cultures, and creeds. As we celebrate the Hispanic Heritage Month, we're not only celebrating us Latinos, but all of us in solidarity with one another. We are celebrating the diversity of your creation, the languages, the races, the nature. Lord, we ask your presence in this meeting. We ask your guidance and wisdom that any decision may be with the justice lens, thinking of on the most vulnerable of our community and the most needed. Thank you, God, in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father. Please all stand for the pledge. We're facing the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mayor's comments. I first want to start off by saying we are saluting National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is an annual campaign to increase awareness of this disease. While most people are aware of breast cancer, many forget to take the steps to have a plan to detect the disease in its early stages and encourage others to do the same. I today am wearing my pink shirt, tie, and I have my socks on. You don't need to see those. But I ask that all of you who are listening here tonight to take those steps to detect or early detection of this deadly disease that has captured so many of our friends and families. We will also be saying the same thing at our next council meeting. As many of you are aware, I've seen the city of Waukegan release guidelines for trick or treating a few weeks ago. Based on our conversation with the Lake County Health Department in conjunction with some of our neighboring towns, this past week, the state of Illinois issued updated recommendations for trick or treating. And I want to highlight a few of those updated recommendations. If you are an at-risk individual or do not feel comfortable participating, please do not trick or treat. Based on the state guidelines, they suggest some alternatives to normal trick or treating at the doorbell, such as leaving treats or candy individually wrapped on an outside table or sidewalk with spacings of 6 feet for the kids. Remember that a costume mask is not a substitute for the proper face covering. I'm going to repeat that again. Remember that a costume mask is not a substitute for a proper face covering. We will post all of the Illinois Department of Public Health guidance on our website and social media for residents to review. Thank you to everyone, and please be safe. COVID-19. I remind everyone that open does not mean over. We've seen some numbers increasing in this country and in our local areas. So please follow the medical advice when possible. Follow the 3 W's. Watch your social distancing, wear your face covering, wash your hands. Police testing. To be part of the next generation of neighborhood and community policing here in Waukegan, please remember to complete your application to join the Waukegan Police Department, which is due October the 16th. The test will be held on November 21st, and please visit our website for all other details. Flu shots. Once again, I want to remind the public to get their flu shots. They are offered for free at a number of locations with your insurance. Leaf pickup. It is now winter coming, folks. Leaf pickup. The 2020 leaf pickup schedule is now available on our website. Pickups will begin October 19th, and please check the schedule for details. As always, we remind you that leaves must be raked to the curb line and not the street line. Do not put leaves in plastic bags. Lastly, leaf burning is prohibited in the city of Waukegan. Fire Prevention Week proclamation. We're going to have a proclamation for Fire Prevention Week, but I'm going to give you just a little bit. The city of Waukegan, Illinois is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting Waukegan. Therefore, I, Sam Cunningham, the mayor of the city of Waukegan, do by here proclaim October 4th through the 10th, 2020 as Fire Prevention Week throughout the city. And I urge all the people of Waukegan to be aware of their surroundings. Look for available ways, any event of a fire or emergencies. Respond when a smoke alarm sounds by exiting the building immediately, particularly your homes. And to support the many public safety activities and efforts of our Waukegan Police Fire Department and their emergency services during Fire Prevention Week, which starts October the 4th through the 10th, 2020. And those are all the comments that I have. Item 2, resolution proclamation, presentation, and appointment. Motion by Alderman Taylor, second by Alderman Newsom to adopt resolution proposing consideration of approving draft Fountain Square TIF redevelopment area plan, designating the Fountain Square TIF redevelopment project area and adopting tax increment allocation, financing therefore, convening a joint review board and calling the public hearing on connection with therefore. There's a second, as a first and a second on the floor. Are there any questions? There are no questions. Roll call, please.
No, question, Mayor.
I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand, ma'am. I'm sorry. Alderman Taylor?
This isn't voting the final thing. This is just looking for the consideration to hear it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for pointing that out, ma'am. Absolutely. This is just to kind of get the process started and get ready for your questions, basically, Alderman Taylor. So everyone, this is to get ready for all the questions that you may have as it relates to not just this TIF, but any TIF. This is the process. And thank you for bringing that out, Alderman Taylor.
Right. And we do have a presentation tonight. Phil McKenna and Nina Coppola from Kane McKenna are here to run through a brief presentation. I'm sharing my screen right this minute. Sorry, I jumped there. I'm trying to unmute myself and my buttons went a little crazy. So they're both here to give us a brief presentation, and then we can go back to a little discussion on the resolution if we need to, if that's okay with you, Mayor.
No problem. So we'll make this as this is the kind of question for everybody. And if they have something after that, we'll go from there. But
yeah,
we have
this
the
is a little
presentation.
TIF 101 presentation for you.
Thank you. Then I'm going to turn this over to to Noel, and then Noel will turn it over by Kane McKenna and Associates, Inc. Noel?
Yes. Thank you, sir. So as I mentioned, this is a TIF 101 presentation. Phil McKenna and Nina Coppola from Kane McKenna, our consultants, are with us this evening. And you guys can turn on your video and audio if you haven't already. And we'll run through this presentation. And if you do have a question during the presentation, I can't see all of you at the same time since I'm sharing my screen, so please speak up. Otherwise, we can take all questions at the end, whatever works for you. Phil and Nina, are you ready to go?
Yeah, ready. This is Phil McKenna. I'll test my mic since I'm not always good at this novel stuff.
We can hear you, sir. Please tell me
All
when
right.
to advance slides, okay? And I'll try to stay
Okay.
with you.
All right, thanks, Noel. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Alderman. We put together just a little TIF 101, as Noel indicated, and then some specifics with respect to the area that we've studied. It's basically the Fountain Square area, consists of 39 structures and about 52 tax parcels. It does not include the Walmart in that area. And we'll show you a little map in just a minute or two. We can go to the next slide. What is tax increment financing all about? And when is it used? How is it
I'm trying
implemented?
to
And
go
what?
to the next slide, sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
Here.
Okay. So we're talking about what TIF is, when it's used, how it's implemented, and the particular the focus of tonight with the proposed TIF in the Fountain Square area in Waukegan. We go to the next slide. This is just a quote that we thought was appropriate given what the prominence of TIF is from a national standpoint. Tax increment financing is the most widely used government program for financing economic development in the United States. From my own background of 36 years, I'd say one of the reasons that's true is there used to be a lot of federal programs with respect to urban redevelopment. When they didn't exist, the burden falls on the state and local government to do that. We go to the next slide. There are 49 of the 50 US states that have some form of tax increment financing. In Illinois, there's over 1,000 TIF districts, which have produced over $1 billion in tax revenue. And there's approximately 4% of the statewide property tax extension base. Local municipalities with TIF include Zion, North Chicago, Mundelein, Vernon Hills, Antioch. There's basically TIFs throughout Lake County. Go to the next slide. This is a depiction of what tax increment financing really is all about. If you look at the first slide to your left, this area hypothetically generates about $10 in property taxes on the day the TIF is formed. So that $10 is split between here, hypothetically, 2 taxing districts. So each one is getting $5 of the property taxes. The TIF is then formed and it's in stage 2, and during that TIF, the property values presumably increase to $20, just in this example. The 2 local taxing districts that had each received $5 still can receive that exact amount for the life of the TIF. The increment above that, the additional $10, that's what the TIF represents. That stays in the TIF fund to fund public improvements, other eligible costs, until the dissolution of the TIF district, which is depicted in slide 3, or stage 3, I should say, when those taxing districts split whatever the resulting equalized assessed valuation increase might be. So TIF is a temporary tool to be able to fund redevelopment, and then at the conclusion of the TIF, all the taxing districts benefit equally with respect to the increased property tax revenue. Go to the next slide. An important thing in TIF is always the but-for clause. It's common in most states and certainly in Illinois. Redevelopment project area in the whole would not be reasonably anticipated to be developed without the adoption of the TIF plan. That's a required designation. It's one that we have made with respect to this area. If we go to the next slide. The eligible costs, the broadest way to describe eligible costs is they're really for public improvements. All the related costs, soft cost, engineering, legal, consultants, et cetera, that are attendant to that the public improvements are also eligible costs. New construction is never an eligible cost. So some developer comes in, wants to build a new hotel or whatever it may be, the actual construction costs cannot be funded by TIF. Below is a list of the eligible costs, just generally for marketing, rehab, public improvements. Existing businesses that make improvements that generate more property taxes can be, subject to council approval, eligible for additional benefits, for TIF benefits. There's also a provision for school and library payments, relocation costs, job training, and interest costs in daycare. Go to the next slide. Okay, if a redevelopment agreement is negotiated, and it's important to emphasize if here, because once the TIF is formed, every particular agreement needs to come before the full council. There's no assumption of anyone that anybody's going to get any benefit of this without the council taking action on a redevelopment agreement. There's two ways that can generally happen. One is a pay-as-you-go, where a particular private entity receives TIF funds as they're generated with some nominal amount total and a performance basis, so that the developer note, if you will, is only funded by virtue of the fact of a successful redevelopment. The other way is to fund it upfront. This would be more prominent with public improvements. General obligation TIF bonds might be used, or TIF revenue bonds might be used. The TIF term is not to exceed 23 years. Any debt obligations cannot exceed 20 years. This also might be guided by a redevelopment agreement, and any ordinances pursuant to this would be subject to council approval. We go to the next slide. This is just to, we just wanted to point out that the school districts are by formula entitled to certain benefits with respect to the TIF increment if there's residential that is generated by virtue of the TIF increment. That's not expected in this case, but just because it's a 23-year life of the TIF, we've allowed for this, the potential budget for the future. When is TIF used is the, if we go to the next slide, I'm sorry. And you see the bottom of this pyramid, it's all in accordance with the city's existing comprehensive plans, goals, and objectives. And we understand that the council is in the midst of considering some amendments to that particular comprehensive plan, and those have been considered throughout this planning process. And on top of it, the sub area, in this case, the TIF area goals and objectives is postured. And on top of that, the specific goals of this area at this time are put. So it's really like a pyramid of planning or redevelopment activities. We go to the next slide. There are, excuse me, still subject to all redevelopment agreements and council approval. It's really two kinds of TIF usage. One is a project-oriented TIF, which would be like the bridge development area TIF in Waukegan, where the boundaries are set and they reflect a particular project site. Project's teed up, it aligns with community and economic development goals, and then TIF is used to close a project gap. Then there's also area-oriented TIFs, which this one is inclined to be. Boundaries are typically reflected by many potential redevelopment sites. Public improvements are often needed to make the area attractive to private marketplace. Redevelopment of the area aligns with community and economic development goals, and TIF is used principally for public improvements and also to incentivize the private marketplace if indeed there are specific developments that are desired. If we go to the next slide, Noah. Key policy questions that we put into the documentation and know that you want to keep a close eye on all along. Will redevelopment occur but for the TIF? What is the effect that TIF will have on other taxing districts? So we pointed out that if there's any negative impacts on residential, the school districts would receive additional monies out of the TIF. What type of projects should be funded? What resources are available? And will incremental taxes be sufficient to make development projects feasible? On a preliminary basis, our conclusion is that they will be, but I know that's something you'll carefully consider throughout the process. Go to the next one. These are the key milestones in any TIF designation. Determining the eligibility, developing the redevelopment plan. Those have been documented in reports that have been submitted to the city already. You then, as you're contemplating doing tonight, approve what we call a kickoff ordinance, which sets a time and place for a joint review board meeting and time and place for a public hearing. You also, and you've already established an interested parties registry, which enables anyone in or outside of the city to be on a list that's kept by the clerk and to be entitled to all documentation with respect to the TIF district. If we go to the next slide, there's a couple of particular points of notoriety in terms of the openness of this process. The taxing districts have received notice of public hearing and joint review board. I should say that's being mailed out this week. Notice of the interested parties registry has been posted. Residents within 750 feet of the proposed TIF district will receive certified mailings with respect to the district and telling them when the public hearing is going to be held. Notice of the interested parties registry is published. Also notice of the public hearing will be published as well. So there's a lot of open notice to everybody with respect to this process. Subject to your actions tonight, the first joint review board meeting would be held on October 22nd. We're in the process of notifying all the other taxing districts of that particular meeting, and they will receive copies of all the documentation to date. Public hearing would be held before the city council, and that date is tentatively set for November 23rd. And then the adoption of the 3 ordinances would still occur at probably your meeting of December 7th, if you so choose. Those are 3 companion ordinances, which I'm sure that Bob Long can address if you need them. If we go to the next slide. This is just a general on what are the timing considerations. Everything's governed by the Illinois TIF Act. Timing is significantly impacted by statutory requirements. The draft eligibility report and redevelopment plan have been on file for more than 10 days with the clerk. Notice of the public hearing and joint review board would be sent out this week if you approve. TIF ordinance would be introduced 14 to 90 days after the public hearing is completed. So there's again sort of a cooling off period there. Typical designation process takes 4 to 6 months. We're about 2 months into this process at this point in time. After designation, the TIF terms runs for 23 years. The joint review board annually reviews the activity in the TIF and there's a full audit that's done in connection with the treasurer's office, and that's submitted to all of the taxing districts as well as to the public that are concerned or interested in it. We go to the next slide. The Act provides for 13 potential qualification factors. And for an area of this nature, we found 6 particular qualification factors. They're listed in detail, and we can go over those in detail if you'd like. Lack of community planning, inadequate utilities, deleterious layout, deterioration, code violations, and excessive vacancies. An important point here is that this doesn't mean that every structure within the proposed TIF district meets these criteria. Some of them meet none of the criteria. It's the area as a whole that's taken into consideration. So when we talk about improvements, it's not only the buildings there, but the parking lots, the other improvements that are in that area. So it's important to recognize it's not saying every building meets these criteria, but rather the area as a whole. We go to the next slide, Noah. What are the next steps? Well, the joint review board meeting, if you approve tonight, would be set for October 22nd. The public hearing notices would be sent out to taxpayers as well as that 750-foot notice. Public hearing would be held on November 23rd, and we'd estimate that the ordinances could be passed in December. I want to point out that we've had Noel and Russ and Tina have all provided a lot of good support, so we feel very good about this process and where we're at this time. And I'll stop there, Mr. Mayor, and see if there's any questions.
Well, thank you, sir, for that awesome presentation. At this time, Alderman, do you have any questions for Mr. McKenna? I see Alderman Taylor's hand up, and then Alderman Bolton's. I don't have all the aldermen on the screen, so that's what okay, here we go. Thank you. We have Alderman Taylor, then Alderman Bolton, then I saw Alderman Florian's hand up. Alderman Turner, is your hand up, sir, or is on the chin? Okay, so we got Alderman Taylor, Bolton, then Alderman Florian. Alderman Taylor.
I know when we talked about this initially, I know you promised, Mayor, that the casino would not be included as part of a TIF, but how much of that could be extended to the casino, meaning parking lots or adjacent conference centers or hotels? I just want the public to understand exactly what gets included in a TIF, what doesn't. And I'm sure you're a little like me, you can't totally answer that. So I would like Mr. McKenna to answer that.
Well, before he does, I want to be very clear, and I think we all said it. Anything related to the entertainment center that includes a casino, we're not looking to give any type of funding to that project. I want to be very, very clear as to my expectation. And I heard it certainly from the legislative body, which is the alderman, that that's not going to happen. But from Mr. McKenna, from Kay McKenna, I'm pretty sure you can answer that. But I think that decision is going to lie with us as opposed to what the eligibility is. So I want to be clear on that. I stand with that. I think you and I, Alderman Taylor, I think there's other aldermen who also agree. Anything having relates to the casino will not be receiving funding from the city. Is that pretty safe to say? At least I'm saying it. But sorry, why don't you go ahead and answer that question? Because that's a global question, whether it be for this TIF or any other TIF. But go ahead, sir.
Right. Thank you, Mayor. Staff has made it eminently clear to us that there's to be no casino benefits considered whatsoever with respect to this TIF. So the place where we sort of weigh in on what might happen is in projecting the potential equalized assessed valuation of the area. We assumed in that it was all retail or entertainment oriented in the sense that it might be theaters or something for the public use in general. We kind of used as some of that background. We looked at the entertainment district in Rosemont, which does not include any kind of casino, but it's included an amount of retail, additional restaurants, etc. So we assume that you didn't do anything with respect to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have
Mayor,
Alderman Bolton. I'm sorry.
May I add to that answer just a little bit?
Sure. I'm sorry, Noah. Go ahead.
Sure.
No problem at all. So you'll note on the maps that the casino property is in the TIF district. And the reason for that is so the TIF district can benefit from the growth in property taxes, the increment that Phil McKenna talked about on that slide with the 3 columns, the 3 stages, so that incremental growth in stage 2 from the casino being developed on a property that currently is valued at 0 because it's tax exempt and owned by the city, that as it goes into private hands, the development happens, it becomes a taxable property and that property tax comes in. That's the increment that goes into the TIF fund that we then have the ability to use on our important infrastructure projects that we've talked to you about. So that's why the casino is in the TIF district, not so that it can get money, but so that the TIF district can benefit from the tax growth on that property.
So based on that, would we be better going as a pay-as-you-go, or I'm sorry, what was the other term that we used? The upfront kind of thing?
Yeah. Because we won't be issuing a redevelopment agreement to them, we'll get the increment every year. When the property taxes are paid, then the increment comes into the fund.
Okay.
So it's us getting the money, not us giving the money related to the TIF, to the casino.
Good questions, Alderman Taylor. Alderman Bolton and Alderman Florian. Alderman Bolton.
Really simple. It was an excellent PowerPoint presentation. I just want to, can I have a copy?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes, and there's a PDF of it also posted on Board Docs. So you can have the PDF version right now, and so can anybody in the public. But I can send you the PowerPoint version also if you want that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we're going to have Alderman Florian, then Alderman Turner, then Alderman Rivera. That's how I saw it in my visuals. So thank you. Alderman Florian.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that presentation, Mr. McKenna. Forgive me if I ask some mundane questions. I'm a relatively new alderman, and this is my first experience with the TIF. So I'd like to examine this but-for clause a little bit. It seems to me what we're saying is if we didn't do this TIF, development wouldn't occur there. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. If you did do TIF or some tool like TIF.
Okay, but yet when we put out our casino proposals, I think there was 6 or 8 different areas we offered to the casinos, and they all picked this area. So I'm confused with it's so attractive to a casino, but it's not attractive to anyone else? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, actually, and that's a very good question. No doubt about it. I suspect if you had allowed residential there, you would have gotten a lot of proposals as well. So what the but-for clause relates back to is, what does the comprehensive plan and the council think is the highest and best use of that property? So you're right. I think if you put a casino any place, you'd have a lot of proposals. And as I say, nowadays, from what we're seeing, if you put multifamily residential as a permissible use, you'll probably get proposals for that. But understanding that the comp plan and the council's decision to date has said, we want something that's more retail, that generates sales taxes, et cetera. We don't think that's likely to come without some initiative.
Okay. And you're saying that the TIF is used to induce private investment, right? Isn't that what was that the word you, okay. And they all expire in 23 years. Why that number? I mean, mortgages are usually 30. I'm just curious where the 23 comes from.
It's an excellent question. I can't address it directly. It's what the statute says. I'm not exactly sure, even though I'm probably one of the few here who was around when the TIF Act was adopted. I don't know why the 23. Obligations issued under the TIF can only be 20. And that's more typical in Illinois law, but there must have been something in terms of the 23 years. If I could just, one other thing I probably should have pointed out before, just to give you some acknowledgement in terms of the retail market. There are several other places not far from Waukegan that are going about a whole evaluation of their retail base. Most notably Vernon Hills with Hawthorne Mall and Northbrook Court in Northbrook. Those are both TIF districts now. They're TIF districts because major anchors left and they can't be reconfigured in terms of the current retail environment. So they felt like we're suggesting to you that some incentive was necessary in order to get the retail developed there.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
Okay, we're gonna have Alderman Turner, Alderman Rivera, then Alderman Moiseo. Alderman Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just want to be clear on my understanding of how this works. So right now we have all properties within that designated area are paying a current property tax rate, and the TIF district allows that any monies as the property values increase, any increased property taxes would go to a special fund. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So
and it's the increase. I'm sorry. It's the increase by virtue of the assessed valuation.
Understood.
Not by virtue of change in tax rates.
Okay. Thank you. That's yeah. So then, so let's say there's some public necessity for improvement, right? A road, sidewalk or something that could be funded by those monies in that TIF account.
That's correct, sir.
When does that money in the we have to wait until the tax money is paid into that account before we can do that improvement. Is that accurate?
Either that, Alderman, or you, since we have Illinois where taxes are paid in arrears. If it's a situation where you need to start with the improvement, then you'd look to go to a financing of that with the payback coming when the TIF comes in. That might be with a local bank or someone who wants to see the redevelopment occur.
So thank you. That's really what I'm hoping to hear. But then my final question is, and maybe it can't be answered at this time, but what's the likelihood of this TIF district requiring a property tax increase to our citizenry beyond the TIF district?
There isn't any likelihood that it would whatsoever. I mean, all we assume here is the city will continue to be prudent, won't put itself in the position of risk. So, you'll see sometimes that the community is quick to put a general obligation behind a bond issue for this. That would put the whole community at risk. We're assuming that you just fund this through revenues that come in with the TIF. And in that juncture, it's revenue that wouldn't be there otherwise.
Got it. Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate your answers.
Thank you, Alderman Turner. We have Alderman Rivera, then Alderman Mosey. Alderman Rivera.
Thank you, Mayor. Just really quick, why is the Walmart property omitted from the TIF district?
Well, I'll give two reasons, and Noel may want to add to that. One, it would be hard to get the Walmart included on the basis of the size of that and the criteria for qualification. Secondly, that's one that I don't think needs an incentive. It seems to be doing quite well right now.
Is that it, Alderman Rivera?
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Mosey.
Yeah, Noel, maybe can you touch on the fact of how successful the bridge has been as a TIF district, which is directly south of what we're talking about? Could you maybe touch on that?
I can say that development wouldn't have happened without the TIF. That was an important factor in getting Bridgepoint North to work because of the significant infrastructure there.
I think if we all remember, that was all the old Cardinal Health, and it was just barren land and vacant buildings, and that's a perfect example of but for that would not have happened. And that's, I just drove by it today. That's going gangbusters. That's has really increased the assessed valuation of that land. Am I correct, Noel?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Ended up getting that deal in place allowed us to annex that property, which was previously outside Waukegan. So it was property that we had no revenue from. Because we were willing to do a TIF district there, we were able to annex the property and get the development.
And well, I got you. An increased valuation, like at the bridge, means increased property taxes, which means more money to the city and other taxing bodies. Am I correct? After, yes. And then, so if the TIF gets going like the bridge development, I'm assuming we're not going to have this for 23 years. I'm assuming we will close it early because it's been developed relatively quickly and almost, I don't know if it's 100%, but it's developed it's developed a lot, correct?
Our hope is exactly that the development and the infrastructure work that we need to do happens very quickly and we're able to close it sooner than the 23 years.
So again, the long and short of it, a TIF district is just a catalyst to get things started. Am I right in that assumption? Okay, thank you.
That's a good description.
And just to add about closing, which TIF that we closed early out there, Noel? And I think we had a question that came up.
One, right?
Yes,
we had TIF number 5 is the former Fountain Square TIF. We also closed TIF number 6 early, and we closed the former Lakefront TIFs early, and then reformed them later on to create current TIFs 7, 8, and 9.
Okay. So I mean, we have present. Okay. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you all for all of your questions. It was some, outstanding question, Alderman. I really am excited that you have some good questions as relates to this project, and you were able to ask those questions of the right person here tonight. Thank you, Phil, from K. McKenna. With that being said, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Florian.
Aye.
Alderman Taylor.
Aye.
Thank you. Alderman Bolton.
Aye.
Alderman Seeger.
Aye.
Alderman Mosio.
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood.
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Rivera.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Motion passed and carried. Thank you, Alderman. Congratulations to you on the first step. Item 2B, Community Broadband Assessment. We have on the line Ms. Peggy Toba from Beacon Place, and Scott McGlynn from Heart of the City will give us a presentation on that. Peggy, are you going to start or Scott's going to start first?
Scott's going to kick it off.
All right, thank you. Scott, why don't you go ahead from Heart of the City? Everybody knows Scott from Heart of the City. If you do not, you're missing out on a treat. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good evening, Mayor, City Council. Thank you again for giving this opportunity. Again, my name is Scott McClellan. I'm the Executive Director here at Heart of the City. I'm joined tonight by Peggy Talbot, who is one of the founders of Beacon Place. I want to thank you just for allowing us a few minutes of your schedule just to share the results of a study that was completed this summer that took a look into the current broadband environment in Waukegan, which was identifying gaps and opportunities. This effort came about because we experience and witness the daily challenges our community faces due to the lack of a robust, stable internet. We were seeing students struggle to connect with their teachers, struggle to conduct business in our homes, agencies, with not having stable internet. And we struggle to connect with partners in the community who are enduring the same challenges. Now we know that a lot of communities face this, specifically because the pandemic has kind of brought it to light. And not all the communities do have the power to change their course, but we believe that Waukegan does have that option. All right, let's see. So early in the summer, Beacon Place and Heart of the City began speaking with other community service organizations and funding partners, and found not only many of the same concerns, but also a great willingness to move forward. So with the generous funding from Julian Grace Foundation, we decided to engage a national engineering firm, or consulting firm rather, called Foresight Group, to take the first step and complete a community assessment of the broadband environment. And they conducted this deep dive to get an understanding of the community. They researched the incumbent providers, the fiber and the network coverage. They studied city plans. They had many interviews with a variety of the city staff, local businesses, civic partners, and provided a 70-page report that summarized their analysis. So that's kind of like just the foundation of how we got to where we are right now. Peggy now is going to share some of the results from the slides to give you guys a little bit of a deeper understanding of what we're talking about here. Peggy?
Sure. Do you want to jump to the next slide?
Sure.
Back to slide 3, I think there, Scott. The one before.
Sorry.
There you go. First off, I want to reiterate Scott's appreciation for the time, and we will make it quick. We're not going to walk you through the 70-page report. It is available and it has a lot of detail. I know some of the people even on the call have participated and shared some feedback. But overall, the result was exactly what you all know. Waukegan's special. It has all of the exciting dynamics of a major metropolitan area, but on a smaller scale. And that is what got Foresight really excited, because some of the actual components of a smart city, a city of progress, which is how Waukegan identifies itself, are really, really doable in a city of this size. So for example, you look at savings that can be achieved through smart lighting or smart sanitation, where there's an ability through a network to monitor when and where things need to be picked up. You can look at smart transportation, which moves people and vehicles through a space really effectively. Tools that also facilitate growth, whether it's, increased smart healthcare, smart safety tools like gunshot detection, and, areas where you can really intervene in a crisis before it occurs. So what really, I think, emerged from this assessment was, a first pass look at, wow, look what could be possible. In all that's possible, however, I think what they came up with was about 8 different gaps, and we've boiled them down to 4. Those gaps equal opportunities. Like any situation, when you begin to kind of dig in, you get to see where there are exposures that really create first step opportunities. So to kind of summarize them, first, I think what came out was that one common thread among most municipalities that have implemented some of those smart city ideas is that they have a centralized broadband advisory board that connects and directs all the efforts being planned and implemented. That doesn't seem to exist in Waukegan. They then looked and said, okay, well, that broadband advisory board is often responsible for establishing a broadband master plan. And even through the TIF discussion that you just had, there were several references to the comprehensive plans that exist in various components of the city, whether it's land use or water or roadway improvements. But one thing that is missing is this centralized broadband master plan that then lays out there to support and integrate into all of those other improvement efforts. Third, I think one of the visible gaps that came out in this assessment was that, you know, just as we all know, 2020 became the year that the lack of strong internet became painfully visible to all of us. It's also the time when there is more funding available than ever before. And right now, there don't seem to be dedicated resources focused on securing some of that funding, both public and private. So Waukegan's being left out of some of the money that's on the table now. And finally, currently, there's a number of kind of efforts underway that are a bit splintered and fractured, but really trying to look at how to help the critical needs of citizens right now, especially some of the youngest ones out there, those students who are struggling to stay engaged. I know we just heard from the school district on Friday, they're going to continue full remote learning through the end of the month. And it really looks like it'll be a long time before any of the children have the majority of their learning back in the classroom. So giving them that critical support in the short term is important. But the risk is that through some of those fractured efforts, there might be duplication of investment and still missed opportunities and gaps. So after we looked at those 4 gaps, I think we came up with 3 really simple recommendations. 1, immediately establish a broadband advisory board, a public-private partnership that includes city leaders, community anchor institutions, and some of those current broadband solution partners to come together and connect some of those splintered efforts that are going on right now and ensure that not all of our attention is on the short term, but that we begin to look at the medium and the long term as well. Once that group is established, immediately dedicate several individuals to attacking the issue of securing funding to make sure that Waukegan can participate in what is available out there and direct it in a way that is most effective. I think the second recommendation there is what many would agree is exactly the right step for that group, is to complete that broadband master plan, something that looks far into the future, that positions the city in a way that allows it to really envision some of those smart city applications at whatever point it is right to implement them. And third, it's to have that financing team really work to support all of those efforts. So whether it be from planning all the way through to implementation.
So to kind of just summarize everything, you know, Waukegan's really at a pivotal point, but is at a point where we recognize that there are a lot of critical gaps, but there's also a lot of opportunity here. And the decisions and the actions that we take now, and I say we as a community, have an opportunity to create a pathway for the future. And we've had multiple conversations about this, and really the first step, going back to what Peggy said, was creating that broadband master plan, because the community assessment, it's already been completed. It's already been paid for. And it was done because we recognize the need for all the kids that we serve and how are we going to be able to continue to serve them. And we were noticing a lot of different people coming to the table with a lot of different ideas, but they were all kind of piecemeal. Then there wasn't one central plan. And we want to make sure that if people are going to be coming to the table with different ideas, that they all intersect at the same place, so that way the city can move forward. This master plan is key. It's vital. And like Peggy said, there's a ton of funding that's out there. And really right now, it's just a matter of us getting this team of folks together and move the needle. We don't have an agenda. Beacon Place doesn't have an agenda, but we felt the need to share this with the mayor and obviously with you as well, to let you know that there is an opportunity here that could really, really change, the city as we move forward. And as I, sat here listening to, the TIF conversation and casino and entertainment and businesses coming to town, well, this is a perfect opportunity to capitalize on any type of infrastructure that's being implemented into the city, and capitalizing on some of that construction that's happening, so that way it doesn't cost more money and we're all on the same page. So that's really our presentation. Just want to let you know that we'd like to get a team together so we can kind of move the needle on this, and wanted to share that with you so you guys could see what we've done so far. And if there's any questions at this point, please feel free to fire away.
Well, before we start, I just want everybody to know that my office is going to be working with this broadband assessment group to start formulating and centralizing what we think is needed based on the assessment, and bring some ideas and proposals back to the aldermen, so you can see exactly how this is going to shape up. So be watching in the near future for some more information on this as we put this together with Scott and Peggy. With that being said, are there any other? Okay, we have a question by Alderman Taylor, then Alderman Florian, then Alderman Bolton. So Alderman Taylor.
I know that, or I'm aware, I'm sure you are too, Mayor, that Lake County United, I believe, did 5 routers to help the broadband experience, or make it bigger for students who were not able to have computer access. Are they part of this plan as well? Are we talking to other not-for-profits, or I'm not sure how this community group was formed, but I know that this is something that they're working on. And maybe
and I think if I can help respond there, I think that's exactly the point, is they would of course be included. I think as we've been able to see, we know that there's been something like, I don't know, I think we added up something like 2,500 MiFis or hotspots that have been handed out either through the school district, the library, CLC, community groups. We know there's a ton of Chromebooks that have been passed out. We know the 5 routers will be going up. And again, all we're trying to do is kind of pull those efforts together and say, hey, wow, let's figure out, where did all those MiFis go? If you put a router here and it's right over a whole neighborhood where we handed out a lot of MiFis, maybe that's redundant. So the whole effort here is to just kind of bring those conversations together to make sure that things advance further, because they aren't duplicating.
Absolutely, I agree.
And we did, the Foresight Group did speak with Amy Lawless from Lake County United. So definitely got feedback into the assessment. And that was one of the things that came up, was when we started hearing that all these activities were going on, how can they be pulled together more cohesively?
Thank you. I appreciate that, other groups have had input, because exactly what you're saying is we do not want to duplicate and waste valuable assets doing that,
Right.
So thank you.
We got Alderman, is it Florian and then Bolton? I think I had it right. Did I go that way? Was that the right one? All right. Yes. So Alderman Florian and Alderman Bolton. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Part of my question was answered when the mayor spoke and said that he's working with you guys to form this team. But I'm just curious about how many people you're looking to have on the committee, and are you going to include school board people and that kind of input also?
So yeah, I can answer that just real briefly. So we looked at a couple of key stakeholders outside of some of the folks from the city. We looked at the health department, we looked at the school department, park district, a lot of the major entities in town who service the community at large. And so we do have conversations with some of those folks already. You know, even when we did the assessment, we talked with the school, we talked with folks over at the health department, on top of city officials. So we have included all of the key, big, I guess, for lack of better words, stakeholders in the community, at least at the initial stages. You know, we don't want to go ahead and have 50 people on a committee because then it just becomes almost too much to manage. But right now we're looking at getting the right people from the right entities that are going to have the biggest impact for driving this forward.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Bolton.
Yeah, so I thank you for the presentation. I got a chance to visit Beacon Place on last week. Peggy, sorry I missed you, but
Yeah, that's okay.
So I look forward to working more closely with you all. And I love your PowerPoint. I love the objective, attempting to fill in all the missing pieces, because truly enough, how are the children in the shelters being reached and things like that? Working with a lot of the shelters, you know, there is definitely a gap. So I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you. And thank you for Beacon Place being in the first ward. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you,
That's
Scott and Peggy, for that presentation. And as
Mayor,
we
can I
said,
ask a question real fast?
sure, Alderman Taylor.
Will we also include Waukegan children who are not just in the Waukegan School District, but maybe in the Gurnee or Libertyville School District as well, but are Waukegan itself? We have a couple of areas that are still struggling with internet, and not the same need, but we definitely have some areas. So is that part of the plan too, or not?
Well, I think part of when we put together the broadband master plan, part of the intent is to look at, you know, the entire footprint of the city. And one of the things that they did in the assessment was really kind of look, first you look and see, are there any dark holes where literally there's no coverage? Now, Waukegan is different than a rural area where there's generally 98% of your footprint has coverage. The problem is not all of that coverage is as robust as you want it to be when you have all of these users. Right. And not all of it is accessible by everyone. So we look at, you know, coverage as well as access, because just because it's there doesn't mean people can get to it. We know there's citizens who find access the barrier. And then once everybody's on it, capacity becomes the next thing. So I think the intention would be that the master plan would look at that entire footprint, regardless of where a student is in school, whether they're in a District 60 school, in, you know, one of your parochial schools, in a Gurnee school. That wouldn't matter. What you're looking at is what can we do for the community as a whole, and look at that footprint in its entirety.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more question by Alderman Turner. Alderman Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. So you keep using the term broadband, but are you referring to hardwire connectivity or wireless connectivity, or both, or a combination, or what? What do you mean when you say broadband?
Scott, you want to jump in? Or?
Yeah, so to answer your question, sir, that would actually be both. We're not married to, you know, necessarily routers or towers, or, you know, we call it copper, you know, conduit, or in the ground. Really, we're looking at to see what is the best resource. And it all depends on, going back to what Peggy just said, depending on the area, depending on the accessibility. You know, if you're talking the outskirts of town, maybe it needs to be under the ground versus being above you know, a building. So the assessment looks at that, and then the broadband plan, and broadband is kind of a weird term because, and we just learned this, is everyone thinks that it's just this massive Wi-Fi, you know, power, so to speak, and it's not. It's really a combination of different methods for internet to kind of cascade throughout communities.
How does your assessment differ from any assessment that a internet service provider might, or rather a telecommunications provider like AT&T, Comcast? How does your assessment differ from theirs? And that's one. And if you've got an assessment that says, you know, over here where Alderman Turner lives, they don't have good speed, why not just inform the local cable company and say, we recommend you increase the speed in that area?
Well, I think some of the solutioning, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Scott.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think
first of all, the first part of your question of how is this assessment different? Well, an assessment from an ISP, which is what you described, one of those internet service providers, they're sort of what you call the last mile provider. They take care of getting you internet from the last point into your home, business, whatever. They are not enable you as an end user to use it.
Yes.
If they did an assessment, they would look at their one little component of it. There are multiple ISPs in Waukegan. So part of the community assessment that was done looked at all of them and combined all of their coverage to look at that. So again, this is not anything that's driven by a provider or an end user solution. This is, hey, what would be best for all? And as someone asked earlier, it will ultimately be a combination of fiber and wireless to enable that you have the most robust solution possible.
So what is your ask for the city of Waukegan? What are you asking us? What's your expectation?
I mean, I think right now our expectation is, one, we want to bring this information to the table and for everybody to be able to see it. And then secondly, we recognize that as the private entities here, that we have the opportunity to access funds to implement this from a infrastructure, I guess, for lack of better words. So, you know, again, at the end of the day, we're not really asking the city to kick in anything right now, other than let's put together a team and figure out how we can get this implemented into town. But I think right now it's really just bringing the information to you all, so you have an understanding of kind of the current climate of where we're at. I think COVID-19 has really opened our eyes to some of the gaps. And for Peggy and myself, it's really specific to the youth in our community, because that's who our clientele is. And when we service 500-600 families and we're finding out that, you know, kids aren't able to do their homework, it's an issue. We even took our, you know, just an example, we took our program center, which is really for training, and we flipped it into a learning lab to have stations 16 feet apart for every kid that needs to be in a place with internet, with academic support, because parents are working on a day-to-day basis, because they don't have the support at home, or they don't have the right internet connection. I mean, we upgraded our business internet, hardwired everything in, so kids have that right now. So really our ask is just that you recognize that this assessment was done. We have an opportunity to, you know, really improve the quality of the lives of the people in our community. And it's just an opportunity. And since, you know, you guys were just talking about all the other things that are going on in terms of the growth of this city, here's a great opportunity to, you know, take it one step further.
Great.
Yeah, Alderman Turner, I'm going to add on to that. Heart of the City in Beacon Place, Roberti Place, Boys and Girls Club, they deal with the young men and young ladies who, fortunate or unfortunate, do not have the essential needs in order to be successful. They see it on a daily basis, not just once in a while, every single day. So when they brought this to not only my attention, and the attention was not so much as to who's going to do it, but let's get a cohesive plan so everyone knows what everyone is doing as it relates to this. This is why I think those critical partners and having a master plan that everyone can follow within the Waukegan proper is the best way for us to move forward with this, whether it be in our residential settings, in our business settings, or just throughout this city. So like I said, we're going to be putting together a team that includes those critical, I call them critical partners, initial partners, to formulate an idea of what this looked like, bring it back to this body, obviously then get some more information before we totally implement. But this right here is necessary for the success of our community. And I believe that these two here are the best voice to bring this or to move this because of who they deal with on a daily basis. So again, Scott and Peggy, I know you deal with our young men and young ladies in so many different capacities and scenarios that come to you, you just handle it. This assessment was done by an outside agency at the dime of someone else to bring this information. I look forward working with you, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say the legislative body, the aldermen as well, to seeing what this blueprint looked like for our city, and not just for today, but years to come. And it's going to change too, you know, because I'd say that technology stuff changes every day, just about. Alderman Turner, no one knows that more than you do, but let's kind of move, let's get this thing together, bring it back, and let's go to work. All right, thank you too for being here today. If there's any other questions that you may have of Peggy and Scott, feel free, Alderman, to reach out. Myself to the mayor's office, or David Motley will be able to answer those questions for you. With that being said, thank you, Peggy and Scott.
Thank you very much.
Alderman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We look forward to the next step in this process. All right, item three, audience time, Madam Clerk.
Mayor, before we go to audience time, does the proclamation under consent agenda need to be moved up? Item B is a proclamation under the consent agenda. Should that be under this one? Should that be under item 2?
Yeah, there was no intent on reading it, but we can bring it up just to keep it from a process standpoint. Thank you. So I got a motion by Alderman Taylor, second by Alderman Rivera, to bring item 4B and move it up to 2C. Are there any questions? Do we gotta have a roll call, Bob? I think we need a roll call, don't we?
No,
No. All right. All those in favor?
no, I mean, no roll call. Has to be verbal.
Okay.
I mean, it has to be roll call.
It has to be a roll call.
Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Florian,
Aye.
Alderman Taylor,
Aye.
Alderman Bolton,
Aye.
Alderman Seager,
Aye.
Alderman Mozio,
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Aye.
Alderman Newsome,
Aye.
Alderman Turner,
I'm sorry, I missed it. What is the motion? What are we doing here?
We're
Taking
moving
items-
4B, and we're gonna bring it up to item 2, not item 2, but to, item number 2, where it says resolutions, proclamations, presentations, appointment, because this is a proclamation.
Aye. And thank you, sir.
Alderman Rivera.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Motion passed. There's a motion on the floor again by Alderman Taylor, second by Alderman Rivera, to approve proclamation for Legacy Lifelines COVID-19 Memorial Day, a day of remembrance and celebrations. Any questions to the motion? All right. Roll call, please.
Alderman Florian,
Aye.
Alderman Taylor,
Aye.
Alderman Bolton,
Aye.
Alderman Seager,
Aye.
Alderman Mozio,
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood,
Aye.
Alderman Newsome,
Aye.
Alderman Turner,
Aye.
Alderman Rivera.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Motion passed and carried. Item 3, audience time. Madam Clerk.
We have a letter, and David Motley, the PR from the PR department, will read it. Thank you, David.
Waukegan taxpayers alert. Sammy Boy and his mama are at it again. The corrupt Cunninghams are racing to raising our property taxes again. Rushing this public hearing to approve a proposed property tax levy increase because we can't be there in person. He's afraid of his own residents. You see, Sammy Boy and all his corrupt cronies, campaign donors, campaign workers aren't impacted, just us. Their property taxes don't go up, just ours. We have to foot the bill and pay for them. Check out how many properties corrupt Cunningham and his many alias companies company names are buying left and right in Waukegan. The dude only makes like $100,000, so guess where he is getting so much cash? Going around town picking up so many white envelopes. And that concludes audience time for this evening.
Thank you.
All right, items 4, consent agenda. There's a motion by Alderman Mosio and second by Alderman Seeger for items 4A through 4N. Are there any questions to the motion? And we're going to exclude B. Let me read that again. Items 4A, then items 4C through N. C through N. Are there any questions to the motion? All right, we got Alderman Taylor.
I'd like to pull out A, please.
Okay. Alderman Turner.
You're on mute.
Why you couldn't hear me? I'd like to pull out H, please. Thank you.
And we're taking out C. All right. There's a motion on the floor by Alderman Mosio, second by Alderman Seeger. And it has 4D through G, 4I through N. Okay. I will be reading the motions. Motion, 4D, motion to approve regular payroll dated September 25th, 2020, total amount of $1,645,046.25. Motion to approve PBLC holiday buyback dated September 25th, 2020, in a total amount of $7,273.11. 4F, motion to approve comp time payout dated September 25th, 2020, total amount of $8,320.17. Item 4G, motion to approve MAP retro dated September 25th, 2020, total amount of $14,105. Items 4I, motion to approve vendor payments dated October 5th, 2020, in a total amount of $1,534,792.77. Item 4J, motion to approve zoning calendar 2618 conditional use permit for auto repair body shop 701 West Belvedere Road. Items 4K, motion to approve zoning calendar 2619 tax amendment section 8.4-4 of the Waukegan zoning ordinance to allow senior living facility, assisted living facility at a conditional use in the B3 district. Items 4L, motion to approve zoning calendar 2620, conditional use permit for senior living facilities, assisted living facility at 4601 York House Road. Items 4M, motion to approve resolution authorizing intergovernmental agreement with the Waukegan Port District regarding the granting of a lakeshore conservation easement and granting of said easement. Items 4N, motion to authorize the mayor, the city clerk to execute an escrow agreement with BQ Energy to pay costs associated with preparing an amendment to the Waukegan North Chicago Enterprise Zone. No other questions to the motion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Florian.
Aye.
Alderman Taylor.
Aye.
Alderman Bolton.
Aye.
Alderman Seeger.
Aye.
Alderman Mosio.
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood.
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Rivera.
Aye.
Motion passed, sir.
Motion is passed and carried. Items 4A, motion by Alderman Taylor, second by Alderman Turner. Motion to approve regular meeting minutes from Monday, September 21st, 2020. Alderman Taylor, did you have some questions we got there, ma'am?
Yes, I looked over the minutes and I believe that we approved at the last city council meeting a change in audience time and the voting requirements. When I watched the tape, Alderman Turner stated right before the vote that it took a 2/3 majority. And I pulled up the ordinance and it says the rules set forth in this division shall not be repealed, altered, amended, or suspended unless by concurrence of 2/3 of all the aldermen elected. We did not have 2/3 that night. It was a 5-4 vote. So we need to amend the minutes if that was not passed and carried then.
Bob, you want to speak to that, please?
The only way we have well, then I suggest what we do is carry these minutes over to the next meeting and let's take a look and see what the ordinance says and see if it needs a 2/3 majority or if it's 2/3 of the entire city council, because we had 2/3 of the entire city council.
Okay.
There it is. Thank you.
So what are we doing? Wait.
We're holding it over until to approve the minutes.
To approve the minutes, but we're right. I'm just bottom line, we're right. But we'll get it done, sir. I understand that you guys had some reservations. I know I know exactly how you feel about it. Fact of the matter is, we'll get this thing straightened out so all of us will have a clear understanding of where we're at and where we're going and how we're going to proceed, not today, but in years to come. But thank you, ma'am, for bringing that to my attention. Alderman Turner, thank you, sir. And I'm saying you're passionate about this, but I believe in saying the last month, we must be all on the same page in order for us to be moving this community forward. So I look forward to this. Thank you. Item C, motion. There is a motion by Alderman. Okay, motion by Alderman Bolton, second by motion by Alderman Newsom, second by Alderman Bolton, to approve memorandum of understanding PBOC regarding 2020 process for promotions to sergeant. Oh yeah, this one, yeah, I apologize. This one we need to hold over, ladies and gentlemen. This one, item C, needs to be held over, yes. We'll get this one. There was something in there that I needed to get a better understanding on. I apologize. Item C is being held over. And it's being held over by Alderman Newsom. Is that okay, Alderman Newsom? Yes, ma'am. Item H, motion by Alderman Turner, second by Alderman Rivera, to approve final payout M. DeRose, T. Ives, R. Peterson, dated September 25th, 2020, and total amount of $80,297.74. Alderman Turner.
Yeah, I just had a question. What is the final payout? What does that mean? Why? Explain the circumstances, please.
Yeah, Sibity, a part of the contract agreement is whenever a firefighter or policeman or just a city employee, whenever they leave, they get to cash out on their vacation. I think it's their vacation and their
sick time.
Yeah. So, and it's cashed out at a certain rate.
Okay.
And it's based on that. So this is, and that rate is calculated. Then it's upon their last day, we get a total of what those hours are based on that rate.
Right.
And here it is. This is the total amount for all those particular individuals here.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Florian.
Aye.
Alderman Taylor.
Aye.
Alderman Bolton.
Aye.
Alderman Seager.
Aye.
Alderman Mozio.
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood.
Aye.
Alderman Newsom.
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Rivera.
Aye.
Motion pass.
Motion pass and carry. Thank you. Item 5, reports and communications. Tax levy, property tax levy estimated at 30 per 35 ILC 200-18-16. Before I go that, I want to read something to you, ladies and gentlemen. As many years as a public servant, official in Waukegan, never has this governing body been asked to squeeze as much value from tax dollars as we are today. All the aldermen here with me tonight have enough experience under their belt to know that the first step toward next year's budget starts with the tax levy decision. Balancing a budget during a pandemic is difficult, to say the least. Our revenues are down, but demand for service is high and growing. Our residents, many of them frontline workers, are facing struggles none of us could have imagined just a year ago. I do not want to, no, I will not, further burden our homeowners, business community with a property tax increase during a pandemic. Do we need to meet our obligations on pensions and bonds? Of course we do, and we will do so. But if we all agree to hold the line on taxes, we will also need to agree here tonight to be united front to make the tough decisions come budget time next spring. The 2000 working cash bonds are coming off the books, which is decreasing the tax burden related to bonds. I'm taking advantage of this decision, of this decrease, by bolstering the funds for pension and other obligations. The police and fire funds will be funded at the legally required level, but I would be remiss if I didn't voice my concerns for their poor investment returns last year. Thank you, Dr. Schwab, who has committed to working closely with the independent pension boards to find ways to improve their returns and mitigate the burden on taxpayers who funds that take a hit, of those funds that take a hit. That being said, this year, I commit to funding IMRF to show those important folks that make the city work, like public works, water plant, and code enforcement employees. I also direct to ensure that the residential garbage program receive funding it needs to continue effectively. Waukegan residential garbage pickup services is often overlooked, but virtually important to public health program in our community. Finally, I think we all can agree to fund the library with the slight increase that they've requested. The Waukegan Public Library offers essential services to our community, providing important connections to health, housing, and literacy resources in our community. Meeting our long-term obligations with the tax levy will be accomplished without increasing the tax levy. I repeat, the tax levy is not increasing this year. It is, however, important to note that the levy, once we have met the obligations that we've just described, provides no new dollars for day-to-day operations. Not only those of us on this virtual dais, but also department heads, union leaders, and sister agencies must commit to tightening their belts. Dealing with the fallout of COVID-19 on the city's budget will not be a job for the faint-hearted. It will be time to be Waukegan tough. The short-term sacrifices that we make by holding the line on property taxes may allow families to stay in their homes and possibly businesses to stay open and operate. This year in particular, Waukegan, the city we are elected to lead, is dependent on us to make the right fiscal choices today. I trust we will put our differences aside and support this no tax levy increase. That is my statement, Alderman. You can speak about it now, but that's the direction that this mayor, along with you, are taking during this pandemic. I look for any questions. concerns or comment or feedback as relates to this year's situation that all of us are managing through, but more important, going to lead through. Thank you. I have Alderman Rivera. I saw hand first, then Alderman Florian. Alderman Rivera.
Thank you, Mayor. The question that I would have is, I believe it was in the last meeting you indicated that we were holding expenses down to 2%. As far as our income, what is our current shortfall?
Well, right now, sir, we're gonna, CFO Tina Figelski and I are gonna be bringing that to you, I think, at the next council meeting. We're still looking at what's coming in, and we're hoping, and it sounds like they're gonna have a federal bill that includes municipalities. So let's take a look and see what that looks like before we give you all the total. But I'll be able to give you some of those outlooks relatively soon. I'm hoping by next council meeting, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Alderman Florian.
I'm kind of piggybacking on what Alderman Rivera just mentioned. I'm a little, while I'm very happy we have the zero, tax levy. I'm excited about that we're going to try to work to hold down our expenses, but I'm a little concerned. And I realize the levy has to be done before the budget. I get the whole timing of everything. I had a very lengthy conversation with Finance Director Smigalski today about the whole process. But I'm concerned that we don't know the full ramifications of COVID. We don't know what we're looking at with staffing. We don't know what the plan is, if there's going to be early retirements or layoffs. And although I realize this levy is not meant to fund our day-to-day operations, I understand that. But if we did need to fill a gap, we could use this to try to do that. And if we put the cart before the horse, so to speak, a little bit here, I'm just concerned we won't have any way of mitigating that down the road. And as I said, I realize this is the beginning step of the process, but we were promised an assessment in August of our finances. Now it's October, we still don't have it. I've reached out to Ms. Jones numerous times about the plan for staff, and there's still no plan for that. There's tons of rumors flying around. People are going to get a year's salary and an early retirement and a new car, and
Whoa. I don't know if you get all that from, Alderman.
Well, I'm saying they're rumors. I'm saying they're
listen, that's our job. Our job is to manage. No rumors. Our job is to manage what's in front of us. While we might have wanted to do that, we didn't know that the federal government was going to be giving us dollars. We did not know there was another bill that's going to become that could support local municipalities. To your point, let's get all the information to make the best decision. But right now, considering that what our bond, the 2009 bond coming off of the tax rolls, this give us a little room, and I think we can make it happen, ma'am. And working with you and our department heads, we're gonna have to bear down. And I just look forward to it. That's all. This is one step at a time, ladies and gentlemen. One step at a time. Okay, and we go from there. But Alderman, I'm hoping, I would love to see that the stimulus package, which includes cities, and the monies will go directly to the cities, will not be going to intermediaries. It comes directly to us. That's one of the things that we're working on right now with that. We're certainly grateful for the stimulus that the CARES dollars that the county provided for us. And they have another round that they're going to be coming out. So we have some more wiggle room, but we need to see everything that comes in before we start making those decisions. But thank you very much.
Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like to just give a shout out to Diane Hewitt that pushed that along for us, not only by dollars, but by time. She got that done very, very quickly. And I want to recognize that situation of Diane Hewitt.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Schwab. And to that point, I made a personal phone call to Diane Hewitt, Mr. Kyle, Mr. Durkin, obviously my mom, Commissioner Cunningham, the chair, Sandy Hart, and the Gary Gibson, who is the chief administrator for the county, thanking them for them making sure that those get down to these communities, to local municipalities in a timely fashion. So we got a little time to go. This is certainly something that we all got to put our differences apart. I mean, set aside likes, dislikes, want, don't want, for the betterment of this community.
Mayor,
I've
I just
heard.
want to.
Go ahead.
No, I'm glad you mentioned all those people. I just wanted to make sure that Diane Hewitt in particular got mentioned. I'm glad you mentioned them all, and maybe you were going to in your speech, but I don't have it in front of me.
No, and listen, so it's important for us to, as Doc said, keep those partners on the county, the state, and the national close to us. We need them now. We need them more so than ever before. We are managing and leading through nothing none of us have ever signed up for, and certainly my 20-some years of being here, and I'm speaking to others who've been here for the last 3, and those who've been on city council over 20, have never seen this. But I believe and I know that working with all of you, we're gonna get through this. And it's gonna take some disagreements. Alderman Turner, Alderman Taylor, Alderman Florian, Alderman Rivera, Alderman Kirkwood, Alderman Mozio, Alderman Bolton, Alderman Newsom, and see, it's gonna take some disagreements. But I know all of you are disagreeing, ultimately agreeing for the betterment of Waukegan, Illinois. And as long as that is at our common denominator, we will make the best decision for this city. I thank you tonight. We made a first step with our TIF, but we got a lot more work to do. I look forward to working with all of you to get it done. Alderman Mozio.
Just real quick, and I know coming out of this COVID, there's a lot of doom and gloom, but one thing we've always tried to do is we're trying to lower the tax rate. And we're doing that. We're chipping away at it each year, and that's a good thing.
Yes.
And second of all, even though we've had this pandemic and all of these things shut down, believe it or not, the real estate market in Waukegan and the medium home values is very, very well. I have a couple of friends that own many homes, and they were buying these houses whiles back for about $30,000, and they put in about 60,000, put another 50,000 in, but they're selling them on the market because the market's demanding 190. That's a good thing. That's a good thing when a house in Waukegan is going for 190 in the area where I live and so many of us live. That's a good thing. So there is some silver lining in this cloud of COVID that's helping us out. So I just wanted to mention that it's not all doom and gloom. As the mayor said, we got a lot of things in front of us, but that's a good thing.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, everybody.
So, Mayor,
who's that? I'm sorry, Alderman Turner.
yeah, I just want to be clear. So I understand the tax levy is not increasing. Is the tax rate increasing?
Well, and that's Alderman Mozio said something. Alderman Turner, and this took me a while too. So I'm simply not singling anyone out from an alderman standpoint. But as your assessor valuations go up, that means your valuations go up, then your rate will come down, Alderman. So the rate will, as long as our assessor valuations go up, ultimately typically the rate goes down on that. And I'm venturing to say the rate will go down. What percentage, I don't know at this time, but I'll make sure that CFO Miguelski can, as once she finds that out, get it to you right away. But typically, as our evaluations go up, sir, then the rate will come down. That's what Alderman Mozio was alluding to earlier. And that's just fun, that's all the time. And while the evaluations are great for our city, but it does mean that, you know, sometimes the tax will, the dollar amount a little bit, sometimes that it gets more of the dollar amount, but the rate typically falls on the evaluations going up, sir. Okay. All right. There's none for 6, 7, 8. Item 9, Alderman's time. Madam Clerk.
Just very quickly, I was remiss in recognizing the author of the audience time, and I'd like to do that now. The letter that we received at 3:55 p.m. today was from Margaret Carrasco. So my apologies that we did not recognize her at that time. That letter was from Margaret Carrasco. So now, Lynn Florian, you'll be first.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I would like to acknowledge that Peter Baker is now in the 8th Ward and repaving some of our worst roads in the ward. I'm really excited about that. I think we're kind of last on the list, so we're happy to see them here in the 8th Ward, and hopefully all those roads will get done before the weather changes. I'd like to say thank you from myself and from the residents in the 8th Ward that's happening. Also, I'm doing Operation Clean Sweep coming up on Thursday, October 15th from 8:30 to 3 at Journey Church, which is at 12085 West York House Road. It's about 2 blocks west of Beaver Park. And they have a great driveway to get in and out, and the dumpster should be near the front. So it should be easily visible. And I thank Public Works for helping me put this together. I was out this weekend passing out flyers, and I put up some signs. So I'm trying to get the word out to the 8th Ward that this is happening. So thank you. Have a good night.
Alderman Florian, just so you know, the reason we started with you not last, Public Works was doing some patching work first, as you know, in your area. So you need to get that completed, and then Peter Baker came right behind. All right, so it wasn't that you were last. That's just the time period in the projects, ma'am. Thank you.
Alderman Taylor.
I just want to remind people that, you know, we will be having meetings on this TIF district, and it is in the paperwork, and we did talk about it tonight, but you can do public comment live by calling 847-856-6412, which is at the, I believe that's the October meeting, or no, the October 22nd meeting. And you have to have all your comments to planning and zoning by 11:30 a.m. on that day for that meeting, okay? Just so that people are aware that our meeting on the TIF will be virtual, not how we've done it in the past. And this is how you submit your comments if you have concerns. I'm happy to see for all of us, you know, this COVID has been a major, major crisis for so many of our residents. And I'm happy to see that even though technically our tax levy went up 12.4, our debt went down 24.7%, making it a zero increase that we're asking for. And that's wonderful for our residents because, as we know, many of our residents are struggling right now. And I would hate to see us have so many homeowners going through foreclosure. So that's fantastic. I want to remind people that this is Hispanic Heritage Month. Many of our Hispanic restaurants are doing events. Please go out and support our restaurants. Our businesses need your help. As we know, the weather is getting colder now, and It requires people needing to eat inside. Please remember to wear the mask, social distance. We've just seen with our president that we need to wear those masks and social distance. Reminder to get your flu shot. I had mine yesterday. I encourage people to do it. Anything that you can do to keep up your immunity during this time, please do it. And I lastly want to talk about tonight, we made an amendment, a text amendment to allow a hotel to become an assisted living facility. We did make an amendment to our planning and zoning requirements. And I want to say, I think that's good for us to be flexible to allow something like this. This is a good project coming in. And I think we need to be flexible when we need to make those adjustments to allow great projects to come to our community. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Bolton.
Yes, just want to remind everyone to complete the census, and you know we need the money. We need everyone to participate. And then also, as you know, continue to practice social distancing. And then I also want to thank Public Works for working with me on last Monday. We did Operation Clean Sweep. And also thank Liberty Temple Church for allowing us to use their parking lot. And we did that right there on the 8th and Adams. So, and I thank you all as my constituents for calling me every week and almost every day and working with me and expressing your concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Seager.
Yes.
Alderman Mosio.
There's two things, or one thing I forgot to mention. We were talking about the TIF. The Home Depot and the Walgreens on Belvedere were also jump-started by a TIF, and then we closed them early too. So we have a pretty good history of jump-starting things with a TIF district and then closing it early. I just wanted to make sure we mention that, and that's all for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Kirkwood.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I have a couple things. On October the 20th, the Fourth Ward will do a virtual meeting from 6 to 7:30. That information will be on my Facebook page. Individuals need to submit their questions no later than October the 15th by 4 o'clock of that particular day. Also, we're going to have a cleanup block party on Genesee on October 24th from 9 to 1 p.m. Also, we're going to have alley cleanups between Pine and Buttrick, North Buttrick, South Buttrick, excuse me. And then also you'll get information regarding Operation Clean Sweep, where we'll be putting dumpsters in various places in the Fourth Ward. Also, we want to make sure that we adhere to the leaf pickup. We don't want the leaves in the street. Make sure that they're, you know, on the curb area there on the parkway. Also, for Public Works, let's make sure that for brush that we call 847-360-0944. As I drive around the ward, I see a lot of brush that have been there for a while. And when I knock on your door, you state to me that you didn't know you had to call it in. But let's make sure that we called it in, and some of you are well aware that I've assisted you in that particular area.
Alderman,
Also,
can I make a comment? Please don't put the brush next to a tree. The guy that picks it up with the claw can't manipulate the claw, whatever. Please put the brush out in the open. It'll facilitate a much better pickup for you and for the city. Thank you.
And also, you know, to piggyback on that, Dr. Swab, we need to make sure that cars are not present where you put that brush. We've had some areas where brush was put and cars have been parked there for many weeks, and certainly we can't pick it up. So let's make sure that that area is vacant so there's not cars blocking the area to pick up the brush. Also, it's important that not only that we, you know, wear a mask, that we practice physical and social distancing and wash our hands, but we need to be aware of those individuals that don't have the opportunity to buy masks and things like that. You know, there's different groups that are donating masks. So if you're running into a problem with masks, please let me know. You can contact me at 484-844-9273. That's all I have. Let's have a great week and enjoy the last of summer weather. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Taylor, you want to correct something and then we go back?
Yes, I just wanted to correct, I think I gave an October date for the TIF meetings, and it is actually, let me double check here. It is actually
Not the 22nd.
November 23rd, which it's a Monday. Okay, so just so people know what that date is that they have to have when the meeting will be. Okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you. Alderman Newsome.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. No, Alderman Florian, you're not the last one. They're currently working in the 5th Ward, finally, doing sidewalks and streets. Some of them I've been waiting on for a couple of years. But anyway, I'm thankful that they're currently working on several streets in the 5th Ward. And hopefully they'll get done before we get any snow on the ground. And then also Operation Clean Sweep for the 5th Ward will be Tuesday, October the 20th. And it will be at the corner of Greenwood and Delaware, same place it was last time, from 8:30 a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. And if you have any questions regarding what you can bring and what you can't bring, I do have it posted on my Facebook page, and it's on the city's website. I'll be getting flyers out, continue to get the flyers out so everyone will know this is probably the last one for this season. But if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. And you can also bring tires and old electronics if you have those items. And if you question any item, feel free to give me a call and we'll let you know if you can bring them or not. And that's all I have. Thank you. Everyone have a good night.
Thank you. Alderman Turner.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So in the 6th Ward, I'm not going to reiterate everything the mayor and other aldermen have said about the leaf pickup. I think you got that. But I do want to reiterate what I've said numerous times about the garbage bins or trash bins. Those go to the curb, not in the street. Try to get them within 3 feet of the curb. Also be mindful on garbage collection day, as well as with the leaf collection and the brush collection, as the treasurer mentioned. You can't or should not park your cars so as to impede the pickup of those items, right? So please make those adjustments. Additionally, in the 6th Ward, we've noticed a lot of abandoned cars or cars that are not being moved, probably in many times because people are working from home like I do. So car doesn't, if you're parked on the street, you may not move it for many days at a time. But the police are going around and issuing citations for where appropriate, right? And we'll do our next 6th Ward meeting where you talk and I listen, and that's going to be on Thursday, October 22nd, from 6 to 7 p.m. We may go a little longer depending on what where the conversation leads us. But other than that, I wish everyone a good evening and thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Alderman Rivera.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Just like everyone else, the 7th Ward is having their cleanup. I have 3 dates here that I'd like to share. Thursday, October the 8th, it's going to be at John Clark School on Blanchard Road. Tuesday, October the 13th, it'll be at Little Fort School on Blanchard Road also. And then on Thursday, October the 22nd, we're going to have it at Jack Benny School, which is on Montesano. And I would like to thank the school district for allowing me to use their space and their facility. The second thing that I would like to bring up, and this is something that I had spoken to with the mayor regarding our vendors and their equipment. Primarily, we're talking like AT&T boxes and lines and Xfinity cables that are on the ground and on people's fences. We need to be able to either review or enhance our ordinances to have the, the equipment and the lines a little bit better kept, when it comes to these vendors. And that's something that I know it's difficult. We do have liaisons that we work with, because Mayor, I believe you and I were on a phone call with one of them. Again, I know that in the 7th Ward, I've had many complaints regarding specifically the cable lines, but right now the AT&T boxes, which are not looking too nicely on Lewis Avenue, and there's one on Montesano that has also kind of collapsed. We need to be able to get better responses from our vendors on that. To that, I just, again, we need to be able to work together, either enhance our ordinances or ask a little bit more of them. With that said, thank you, and God bless everyone.
Alderman Kirkwood had his hands up for something. I'm sorry.
That concludes, unless for now, Alderman Budell.
I want to make sure you got the correct phone number, 844-484-9273. Also, alternating parking is in place. I want to make sure that those individuals on Judge, Lorraine, and Genesee, you're aware so that you don't get tickets in those particular areas. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, Alderman Kirkwood, you said, what telephone number is that for, sir?
My telephone number is 844.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, I apologize. Yes.
484.
Yeah, we're fine.
9273.
No, you had said the 360 number. I was like 844.
No.
I'm sorry. I apologize, sir.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everybody. Before we go, Alderman, I want you all to know that we're getting ready for snow season. We put together a team of individuals, Public Works, traffic, our towing agencies, our towing vendors, and as a reference to some of the areas where we've had trouble in the past where cars just refuse to move. I'm asking all of you to survey your wards. If you identify some streets where you're getting complaints in the past where our Public Works Department cannot get through, they just refuse to move. We're trying to come up with a kind of cohesive plan that won't, really impede people in their parking, but it cannot stop us from doing what we need to do, particularly when those 2, 3, 4 inches of snow come down at one time and these vehicles don't move. So be conscious of that. If you have any suggestions or areas that you need for us to concentrate on, get it to me right away as we're putting together this overall plan for us. All right, so thank you very much for that. With that being said, are we finished with Alderman's? As a motion by Alderman Taylor, a second by Alderman Seeger to adjourn. Roll call, please.
Really? Alderman Florian.
Aye.
Alderman Taylor.
Aye.
Alderman Bolton.
Aye.
Alderman Seeger.
He said no.
Alderman Seeger.
Said aye. Raise his hand.
Unmute.
Oh,
Alderman Mosiel.
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood.
Aye.
Alderman Newsome.
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Rivera.
Aye.
Go ahead. Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome back, Pat.
It's a quorum. It's a full. We're done.
The motion's passed and carried. What a great one to leave on. Have a great week, Alderman.
Good night, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.
Good night.